Welcome to the Community Preservation Act Committee. Today is Thursday, March 16th, 6:44 p.m. Please be advised that this open meeting may be broadcast live and will be recorded by WRPS for playback at www.wrpsrockland.com/TV and www.youtube.com/WRPSRockland. Entertain a motion to open the meeting.
Motion open.
Charlie, second.
Oh, second.
Tom, second. Roll call vote. Joe?
Present. Yes.
Aye.
Yeah.
Tom?
Yes.
Pete?
Yeah.
And Charlie?
I am present also, but yes.
Thank you.
Oh, that's just dissent.
Really? I'm gonna start. All right, let me share my screen, get the agenda up. So tonight will be a quick one. We're just going through the language of the articles that are proposed for come on Zoom. Proposed for town meeting. We have 3 articles. I'll start with our distribution of funds. So I'm going to go take this out of order. And we'll talk about Carey Street and Spring Lake additional funding. The language that we have here is what was their draft state from town council. We technically don't need to vote on the language, but I advise Doug that this is, a precedent that's been set, and we've always gone through the article language, identify any things that we want to call out to maybe make changes to. So we technically don't need to approve them, but we can. And it's, I think, more of customary for us to do that. So I will pull up our first one here. And the reason I'm taking these out of order is you'll see it when we go back to this one, that the budget articles, actually, no, I took it out. It's the same language that we use every year, just updating the figures and dates. I'll make this a little bit bigger for you guys. So this will be Article 12 on the warrant as it stands. So I'll read this into record, and then if you guys have any questions or comments, let me know. Will the town vote to appropriate a reserve from the Community Preservation Fund annual revenues in the amounts recommended by the Community Preservation Committee for committee administrative expenses, community preservation projects, and other expenses in fiscal year 2024, with each item to be considered a separate appropriation as follows. Appropriations from fiscal 2024 estimated revenues for committee administrative expenses in the amount of $34,612.03. Reserves from fiscal year, oh, I didn't update those. Changes on the fly. From FY24 estimated revenues from historic resources reserve, $69,224.06. From fiscal year 2024 estimated revenues for community housing reserve, $69,224.06. From fiscal year 2024 estimated revenues for open space reserve, $69,224.06. And from fiscal year 2024 estimated revenues for budgeted reserve is $449,956.41, or take any other action relative thereto requested by Community Preservation Committee. Finance Committee recommends deferring to Community Preservation Committee. That's typical for this. Funding source fiscal year 2024 estimated receipts. So this is from, these figures came from our town accountant. It's what they project to see.
Are we missing one?
Nope.
Back and rec? No.
No, there is no Parks and Rec reserve. But we can use it for Parks and Rec, but we can't, there isn't a, the way the state law is written, there is no funding line for that. And so typically we pull it out of reserve, but any purchase of land comes out of open space.
That's weird, Joe. I feel like this I feel like something's missing too, but I guess not.
It's literally the same language we've used every year. The only thing updated is the years and the amounts.
You looking for a motion to approve?
No, like I said, we do need to approve this one. I stand corrected because we need to approve the funding distribution.
Motion to approve.
Hold on one second. Sorry. You want to just update that, Tom, our motion to approve as written or as presented?
Motion to approve as written.
Second.
Okay, roll call votes. Oh, did we lose Pete?
I think we did.
Oh, shoot.
Does that mean we lose a quorum?
Yes.
Yeah, we gotta stop. Hold on.
Okay.
Gotta tell Pete he can't do Zoom on a rotary dial phone.
At what point did we lose them?
I'm not sure. We'll have to wait for him to come back and ask him.
This is the only downfall with Zoom.
No, I know, yeah, it's a whole lot easier to tell when someone gets up and walks out of the room. The extension is only good till end of March for the remote meetings. So this may be our last one.
No.
I
It's so
kinda
easy
like-
to- I like it too.
Plus everything's recorded for the public to see.
Mhm.
Item.
You get a hold of him, Steve?
I texted him.
Battery probably died. What was John doing?
John was at a wrestling banquet for his son, high school wrestling. Hey, this Pete.
Sorry about that.
No worries. When did we lose you, Pete?
You were going over, you had just given the article, and you were looking up language or something.
Did I finish the article? Oh, we were already discussing the article?
You did, yeah.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor from Tom to approve it as written. Joe seconded. So we're gonna do roll call if you're all right with that.
Yep.
All right, so start with you, Pete.
Yes.
Charlie,
Yes, I'm in favor.
Tom,
Yes,
Joe,
Yes.
and myself, it's unanimous. All right, let's jump on over to the next set. So that is Carey Street. I'm gonna go to Carey Street first. This one is just FYI. This is actually a Board of Selectmen article. And it's just revising it because we're taking it by eminent domain. So
Carey
I-
Street?
No, this is Spring Lake.
Okay, you said
Oops.
Carey.
Sorry, the first one was Carey Street. I'm jumping down because that was the order.
Okay.
So this is tentatively Article 71. Will the town vote to raise and appropriate, transfer, or borrow a sum of money to acquire by gift, purchase, or eminent domain a 2.19 acre more or less portion of so-called Spring Lake Cemetery Association property, so-called abutting Studley's Pond, as shown on plan entitled Taking Plan, Market Street, Rockland, Massachusetts, prepared for the town of Rockland by Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors, 427 Columbia Road, Hanover, Mass. 02339, dated August 29th, 2022, on file in the office of the town clerk for open space, conservation, and recreation for public park purposes, or take any other action relative thereto. It's requested by the Board of Selectmen. Approval recommended by Board of Selectmen. The funding source, prior appropriation from CPA already voted. And there's a note here, it's short by 2,500 based on updated appraisal. But I let Doug know that we had contingency in our original article up to 55,000. The new taking price is 52,500. So I told him that funding should be all set. And that we funded all of the appraisals out of our administrative funds, which can be done out of a town meeting. We've already authorized that, and Tom's already sent that along to be paid.
Yep.
So I think that'll update. It's just they're going to make a change on the funding source to reference that article, which was article, I happened to look it up today, Article 44 from May of 2021.
Is there money there for a survey?
I'm not sure how that was funded. I think we funded that out of administrative funds back in the day. But that's all set. The survey was already done back in 2022.
Okay.
22. This is more FYI. Do you guys have any comments or anything else? Feedback for really Doug or the Board of Selectmen?
Should this be at this time under the control of the park department, or is that with the
That happens,
purchase and sale or whatever paperwork's filed with the registry of deeds?
right, that would be part of, once it goes through, then be the conservation restriction. But let me pull up the old article. Hold on a second. If I have it there. I had it up earlier. So no, it's not there on that, but I will take that as a note back to Doug, Joe. Asking if we need to put language in there to assign the land to under Parks control.
Thank you. Under the lease agreement, it's been that way, I believe. Am I wrong, Pete? Or am I right?
No, that's correct, Joe. I still there?
Yeah, sorry, Pete, just taking some notes.
No, okay, that's fine. I didn't know if I lost you again, that's all.
Any other comments on Spring Lake? Seeing none. Moving on to Cary Street. So this, because we're looking to borrow 50%, so that we're not emptying our coffers, our funding, for this, we could fund it completely. But we discussed it with the Board of Selectmen, and we were all in agreement that splitting this, funding it outright from CPA funds, 50%, and then putting a bond of another 50% to be paid out of future CPA funds would be appropriate for the purchase, because it's so large and it doesn't hamstring us in the future by not having funds in our accounts. So it's a motion will have to hit the floor for that. And I was looking today through the state's guidance on how to write these kind of articles, and it follows the same format. So town council has already put this together. I'm going to go ahead and read it. I have a couple of notes on this that I've already shared with Doug, and I'll share it. I'll stop and share those points as I go through. So there'll be a motion, it'll likely be read by me, I'm assuming, that the town, acting on the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee, Vote to raise and appropriate $445,000. I did make a note there that we actually approved it as $500,500 for a contingency and for the environmental studies. To acquire by purchase eminent domain or otherwise a certain portion of real property known in number as 48 Carey Street, Rockland, Massachusetts, containing 3.34 acres. Another note here that I pointed out to Doug is that the appraisal listed as 3.14, not 3.34. We'll see what comes back with that. More or less shown as lots 2 and 3 on a plan entitled Plan of Land 48 Carey Street, Rockland by Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors dated 5/4/02. That's May 4th, 2002, which is on file with the Board of Selectmen and Town Clerk, described in part all acquisition costs and expenses related thereto, and or to accept gifts for the purposes for open space and recreational purposes pursuant to Mass General Law 44B. That to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the selectmen, is authorized to borrow half under Mass General Law 44B or any other enabling authority, and issue bonds and notes of the town therefore, and to meet the remainder of this appropriation, the other half shall be transferred from Community Preservation Fund receipts. And that the Board of Selectmen are authorized to enter into all agreements and execute any and all instruments, including the conveyance of a perpetual conservation restriction on the parcel in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 184, as required by Section 12A of Mass General Law, Chapter 44B, as may be necessary on behalf of the town to effectuate said acquisition. That'll be the motion. And then the article. Will the town, acting on the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee, vote to raise an appropriate transfer from available funds or borrow a sum of money to acquire by gift, purchase, eminent domain, or otherwise certain portion of the real property known and numbered as 48 Carey Street, Rockland, Massachusetts, containing 3.34 acres. My point before remains, more or less shown as lots 2 and 3 on plan entitled Plan of Land 48 Carey Street, Rockland, Mass by Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors dated 5/4. I think that's supposed to say 23. I'll have to go back and look at that. Which is on file with the Board of Selectmen and our town clerk, and described in part in a deed recorded at the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds book 55,374, page 217, including all acquisition costs and expenses relative thereto, and or accept gifts for the purposes for open space and recreational purposes pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44B, and further authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into all agreements and execute any and all instruments, including the conveyance of a perpetual conservation restriction on the parcel in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 184, as required by Section 12A of Mass General Law, Chapter 44B, as may be necessary on behalf of the town to effectuate said acquisition and take any other action relative thereto. Requested by Park Commissioners, since you guys are the submitters. Approval recommended by Board of Selectmen, Parks Commissioners, Community Preservation Committee, Capital Planning Committee, and Finance Committee. The funding source would be Community Preservation Act funds. That is that. Hold
Once
on,
again,
Steve. Read into record. Noting 3.1 acres on appraisal. Course 3.34 written. And funding was approved by CPC. 1,500, which includes contingency and site environmental study plus 5%. Where is it? Go ahead, Joe.
Once again, I'd like to see some type of wording possibly of park commissioners, park department being the stewards of this property as well with the other two parcels that we already have.
Well, the other two parcels wouldn't be in the article.
No, but the
Oh,
other
but
two,
To follow
Follow.
form, yeah. Indicating Parks Authority over property. And I'm gonna add something else there, Joe. That based on my reading of these, that we should indicate that it's intended uses for active recreation.
yes.
I just have a question about that.
Give me 1 second. It was indicating intended use as active. Go ahead, Charlie.
So I agree with the intent wholeheartedly.
Yep.
My only concern is, should we check with our CPC representative from the state to make sure that we can include that kind of language?
Already did.
And- Oh, you did? Okay, so okay, cool. All right.
Yeah, when we were discussing this, I went through, because of the, I don't want to say the issues, but when we purchased the not the McCarthy farm, the Robbins land, in addition to Hearts of Park, we had to do conservation restriction on any land we purchase. But Wildlands Trust, who we're using for that, they don't hold, it's still called conservation restrictions, but they will not hold it with the active use call-outs. I was able to convince them to leave disc golf there where it exists already, and they added that to the conservation restriction. But we talked about like future purchases, and they said that they would not be willing to hold anywhere we'd look to like install ball fields or that kind of thing. We would need to find another holder to hold that restriction. And so we have, talking to Stuart, we have a couple of options. We should talk to local nonprofit groups in town, like Little League, like Rockland Youth Football, maybe there's a lacrosse, someone that would need to update their bylaws that would allow them to hold real property in a conservation restriction in perpetuity, but that would need to be included in their articles of incorporation. There isn't really I asked us, oh, is there, a listing of folks that are organizations or trusts that hold this type of thing with actives? And he said, no, typically it's, people from towns will spin up, friends of, for example, Friends of Rockland Parks, something like that, something to that effect. So we'll need to work to identify that group and make sure that it's all there, and we'll work with Land Use Council to help write that up. I think Attorney Bob Galvin is who typically the town uses on that. He was involved with the other one. So that will be something that comes out of this, but it needs to be added as a there's like an accepted use clause.
Okay, perfect. As long as Stuart gave it the green light, I'm good with that, because I wouldn't even know where to begin with that language. But if Stuart is good and Bob Galvin, then I think we've done our due diligence on it.
I believe the state has something for park property. I'm not positive. Pete, do you have anything on that?
Yeah, there is something in a bylaw or something about that that's from the state.
Yeah, this guidance, that's, all here. It's the section 12 of 44B and also chapter 184. If you look those up, you'll see how it's itemized there and that's required by us. If you go to the coalition's website, they have sample language that's been used for other projects that includes those callouts. They used to have two separate templates that like kind of included the active recreation. They've since removed that and it's just your standard boilerplate conservation restriction. But talking to Stuart, there's a section in which you add that. And when I talked about Galvin about it, he was aware of it. He hadn't personally written any with active use. But he is aware that you can do that.
Okay, good. Like I said, I think that we've done our due diligence on it. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Steve, do you feel that you should mention how this came about, where it was denied and then accepted?
Oh, that's true. You guys, yeah, I put that in the email, just kind of about this meeting, but thank you, Joe. The property owner had a change of heart. We're not sure why, but he reached out to Doug, his realtor reached out to Doug on behalf of him, the property owner, saying that he had changed his mind and would like to move forward. And because we had let him know, Doug had let him know that the offer would remain on the table until we got to a point where we couldn't hold the offer anymore because town meeting needed to move forward. I think the deadline he gave him was March 10th, which was the soft close date of the warrant. That's when, that's on the books for the selectmen to that was their last meeting where they would close the warrant. They can reopen it and they're reopening it for us for these articles. And I'm sure a number of others, if we're seeing Article 71, it's going to be a long warrant. But that was the date that was given. He reached out ahead of that to let him know that it's still on, or that it's back on. He would like to move forward. So that's the story there. He agreed to the appraisal value, which is the most we can pay him. So good news for the town, and I'm hopeful that the residents agree with us on this.
And one more thing, Steve, this could have been a big project that, once again, if the town approves this, will be stopping a large, I guess, 40B possible.
Potentially. I think the way we educate the public between now and town meeting and at town meeting is really, it's that distributed campus idea, Joe, that you had put out before. That really resonated with a lot of people. That, where we added the school to have more parks in the area of the school is important, especially after, essentially the Oval moving to Jefferson, right? Which is not close to the campus anymore. So having this kind of land available in close proximity to the new consolidated school campus is really the selling point on this. I think we'll have to do, we're gonna have to do some outreach and some education on this because I think it might be confusing, especially with the large number and other projects that are, that have large numbers tied to them. The town, there may be some consternation, but to remind folks that this has already been paid for. This is not going to raise taxes. This is something that the town agreed to and that we have these funds for these purposes. And I'm hopeful that this passes.
And not to, it's not going to be developed right away.
Right. Yeah, that'll be important too, to say this is, and we should have some meetings about that with the public, get their input, what we should see. But yeah, I agree with you. That's important information. So I think I'm going to work with Joe on throwing some PowerPoint slides together, just so we have something to be able to show the public. I'd like to talk to Doug Lapp because I don't know if you guys have seen him. He's been doing those interview sessions I think he did one for, they did the public outreach with the fire station, but they've also done like interviews with like, I think they did this, one of the sewer commissioners. He's done a couple other ones to just talk about what we do in town. And I think this might be appropriate. It's just like a little sit down. They do it at WRPS Studios and they put it up on YouTube. It's kind of just informational. I think that might go a long way. But it might make sense to do just a little public outreach like we did with McCarthy Farm. Like they're doing with the rec center, like they're doing with the fire station. Just getting that information in people's hands so they can make an informed vote. Okay. That brings us to the end of the agenda. I'll entertain before I do that, I will be scheduling another meeting, just like a normal meeting. We have some other agenda items we need to go over. We have some other, we actually have a housing request that has come across the desk that we need to bring those folks in. I told them we could get a start on it, even though they missed this year's submissions. But they are inclined to hear our position on it. So I will get that information out to you guys. We'll schedule another meeting. I'll get feedback for appropriate times from everyone because I know this one was kind of very impromptu and sudden. I want to make sure we have as many members available to hear this information. And then we'll circle back on the item from our last meeting. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Roll call. Pete,
Yes.
Charlie,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Joe,
yes.
and myself is unanimous. Have a great night, everybody.